Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is go into Global. You're going to select and write your basic program. And then we're going to work on our oscillator section. Your first oscillator is going to be a sine wave. It's going to be synced to your second oscillator, and the pitch on this one is going to be up a bit. You'll hear how that sounds. I'll demonstrate in a second. But so your second oscillator is also going to be on a sine wave, and let's give it a little slop that makes it a little nice, a little bit on each oscillator. So you'll hear your first oscillator. If you don't sync it, it sounds like this. If you do, you get a much more saw-toothy kind of sound with those two things with the sync. And then we're also going to add a third oscillator. It's going to be an O wave. This is one of the digital waves of the DSI. And that's going to be tuned up a bit, up an octave to C3. And that's just going to give us some higher harmonics to play with as we round this patch out. And we'll add a little slop to it as well. Let's see, the next thing we'll jump over to our VCA section. Let's see, our envelope amount is going to be 100%. And then we want our attack at 0, decay around 100, sustain all the way up at 127, and then the release will be around 107. That's really going to ring out for a long time. And we're going to want that to happen here in a bit. So the next thing is, let's go over to our low pass filter, and we're going to work on that for a minute. Let's start with the low pass frequency around 70 and our resonance down around 22. And let's see, as far as our envelope goes, we want the attack all the way up. We want that, we're making that big swell. And really we're using this envelope more for the kind of resonance than we are for the attack, as you'll see later. Let's see, and then our sustain is at around 55, 56, and our release is around 80. Okay, and then we're going to want the envelope amount all the way up. Make sure velocity amount's at 0. That should be right for that. So then we're going to be using the high pass filter on this patch. You might not hear that at first in listening to it, but I'm going to show you how we're going to use the high pass filter to create the swell. So we're going to put it around 30, 38. That gives us still some low end at the beginning of the attack. And then let's put our resonance to about 20, 30, 29, 30, and then we're going to put the key at around 40. That takes out some of the boomiest part of the low end and kind of balances out with the high end of the sound. Okay, so then we're going to go over to envelope 3, and this is what's going to give us our nice swell. We're going to set the destination to our high pass filter cutoff, and then we're going to set our attack for around 100. That's giving us the swell. And then we're going to set our decay for 109, 110. That's going to keep it up there for a while. That's what we want, that big swell into a big full sound. And then our sustain at 127, we're keeping it up there. And then our decay, our release is around 80. That way we have kind of a nice tail to the sound. For to this envelope. So we've mapped it to the high pass filter. However, we're going to set our envelope amount to around a -100. So the reason it's negative is because that's actually going to be lowering the frequency of the high pass filter as the envelope attack rises. So essentially, when you press your sound, that's going to give you the swell, and it's creating that swell in part because you're releasing into the lower frequencies. So your high pass filter is actually, the frequency is coming down, so you're starting to hear more of those lows swelling up out of it. Okay, but we're not done yet. It's kind of a wussy sound at this point. We want to make it a bit fuller. So I like having a little bit of bite to the sound, so we're going to do a couple things. I'm going to assign the aftertouch to the low pass filter resonance. So if you juice that up too much, you're going to get this really kind of, for me, the resonant squeal is a bit too much. So I think if we dial this down to around 22 or so, we get some of the resonant rise without that kind of whoosh sound. Then the next thing I'm going to do is bump up our distortion and drive to really give it a little grit. We'll put the distortion around 33. The drive, let's say around maybe 17. That'll be good. And it's really starting to give it some oomph to it. But I want more. So let's boost our air. This gives us just a little lift in our higher frequencies. The air does. And then we're going to go over here to the feedback amount. And the feedback amounts, we're going to set that to around 23. If you put it up too high, you kind of get this sort of real ugliness that comes in that's not right for this patch. So we're going to dial that back down to about 23, 22. And then our tuning, feedback tuning, this is literally tuned in semitones, adding harmonics into the sound. So I really want those overtones in this sound. So we're going to dial that up an octave to 12. So for me, the sound is still a little dry, so we're going to go to delay. And we're going to put just a tiny bit of delay on this. So let's dial this down to about 68-ish. And the amount we'll put at around 43. And the feedback around 48. And this just gives it a little bit of space to this patch that I like. And then we're also going to add some spread to it to make it sound really big and full in the stereo field. We'll dial that up to around 29, 30. And actually a little bit lower, I like that. And then the last thing to do, we're save our patch. So let's go to write. We will write, I call this demo program. So go ahead and we'll save our patch. And this is important. So save that. Oops, let's go back. So we're going to copy name A to name B. But also, more importantly, we're going to go over here to the edit. Hold it down to edit A and B. We're going to copy A to B. So that gives us A and B in the same, has B and A, both layers have the same program. So get out of that. And then I'm going to go over here and just hit stack A and B. So that way, that really doubles that sound. So in addition to this pan spread plus our delay and the feedback and the distortion, you get a really big full sound, layered sound that way. So that's going to sound really nice. So, well, thank you for hanging out with me today, and I look forward to next time, and keep an eye out. We're going to be releasing some sound packs in the coming weeks.